Well, I started when I was about, I would say 14. A man in my hometown, Beloit, Wisconsin, came up to me and he says, I'm going to make a ball player out of you. His name was Lonnie Edwards. And from that time on, up until I got into American Legion ball, I was kind of under Lonnie Edwards. He was teaching me everything. And then I finally got into with a coach called Harry Pullman. And he was the American Legion coach. He was a white fella. And at that time, when I got on the American Legion team, I was the only black. So he took to me quite a bit. He thought I was a pretty good ball player. So the St. Louis Cardinals had a tryout in my hometown. And he called me and he says, Bill, you going to tryouts today? I said, nope. He says, why? I said, because they're not taking any blacks, so why should I go over there and waste my time? He says, well, you ought to go for the experience. I said, I don't need the experience. He says, so he didn't like that. So he got in his car and he came over to my house, made me get on my bicycle, and he followed me all the way to the tryouts. Well, at the end of the tryouts, they call you to the center of the diamond, and they tell you what to work on or if they want to talk to you. So I didn't go to the center of the diamond. I got on my bike and went on home because I knew I wasn't going anywhere. So about 6 o'clock that evening, here comes the American Legion coach, Harry Pullman, and I think the scout's name was Mars, M-A-R-R-S. They came to my house and they said, we'd like to talk to you and your dad. I said, oh, just a moment, and I got my dad. And they asked my dad, they said, you think he'd like to go play baseball somewhere? My dad said, I don't know, I asked him. So then they asked me, you know, and I said, yeah, but where am I going? Because I knew I wasn't going to St. Louis. He says, well, I'll get you a tryout with the Kansas City Monarchs, one of the best teams in the Negro League. I said, okay. So they set all that up, and I went to Kansas City. And I tried out for the team, and I guess I was there about 5 days, and the manager walked up to me and he says, Bill, I think we're going to keep you. I said, you're a pretty good ball player. I said, thank you. And he says, you go over to the Streets Hotel and get your room until we, you know, find someone that you can stay at their home. So I said, oh no, I'm not going over there and get a room. I says, if I don't go back home and finish high school, my dad will kill me. They said, well, we'll have to let you go back to, you know, high school, finish high school. So they let me go back to Beloit, Wisconsin, and I finished high school, and after I finished high school, I went back. And after I went back, Satchel Paige called all the ball players together, and he says, now we have some young blood. And that has been that was my nickname all the way through my career, see, after I left Beloit. And when I first left, before I left Beloit, I was in junior high school. I went to junior high school there called Lincoln Junior High. And they gave me an L that had 3 bars on it. And I think it was the largest L they ever gave out at that school. It was for baseball, basketball, track, and wrestling. 1 for the L and then 3 bars on it. And I've tried to find out if there was any L's ever gave out bigger than that or as big as that, and I still can't. And when they inducted me into the Sports Hall of Fame in my hometown, which was this past this past June, what happened there is a fella came from, he was a policeman, and he lived in Wisconsin, and he was a policeman in Beloit, Wisconsin for 30-some years. And he says, I don't know you. He says, how did you get by me like that? I said, I'm glad you don't know me. Like that, you know, if you're a policeman. And what it was, he went to home plate, and he saw that picture in home plate, and then he just walking around looking at all the pictures, and he saw my card, and my baseball card, and it said Beloit, Wisconsin. He says, I don't remember this guy. So he asked the waiters and waitresses if they knew me, and they said, oh yeah, he'll probably be in there about 11 o'clock, 11:30. So he comes in almost every day. But I didn't go in that day. And this guy got on the phone, he got to messing with, you know, talking to the manager and everything. And he finally got me on the phone. He asked, could he come over, him and his wife? And I said, sure, I don't mind. So they came over to the house, and I was showing them different things and different articles. I even had them, I got them in the scrapbook from Beloit, Wisconsin and everything. And he says, he asked him a question. He says, are you in the Sports Hall of Fame in Beloit? I said, no, not as I know of. I said, I haven't heard anything about it. He said, well, you should be in. He says, you're going to get in there. I said, oh, I don't care. At this later date, I said, I don't care if I get in there or not. Within 2 weeks, Beloit newspaper was calling people all over. Beloit was calling my house, trying to find out why I wasn't in the Sports Hall of Fame. And I said, well, the reason why, nobody ever asked me, you know. And when they start looking at my records and going back in the papers and things like that, getting the old papers at the newspaper, they said, man, how did we miss this guy? And then they finally inducted me into the Sports Hall of Fame. I went up there, and it was real nice. Some of the things that they talked about was back in the time when, you know, it was just as bad in Wisconsin as it was in Mississippi. But see, the only difference was in Wisconsin, they know how to cover it up a little bit. In the South, they didn't care. So I remember we had played some ball game somewhere in Wisconsin, close to my hometown. And we went to eat, and we all went in the restaurant, and this guy always bought us something, you know. His name is Mr. Crowley. And the guy said, well, we'll feed everybody but him. He can't eat in here. He said, well, if he can't eat in there, none of us will eat in here. And the guy said, oh, no. So we'll find a place. We'll feed him. So they did feed me, you know. And after that, every time we went somewhere in Wisconsin, they'd give me the money. And I'd have to pay for the bill. See, and it made it much easier that way because, you know, they wanted that money. And, but
was it any easier being an athlete?
Pardon?
Was it any easier on you being an athlete?
Sometimes. In the South, no. I can remember in the South when we were going to a place where to play ball, like we would get there in the evening, say about 6 o'clock, and we weren't going to play until the next day. It was in Oklahoma, but I don't remember the town. And we would park out at the city limits, and we wouldn't go anywhere near the town, you know, inside the town. The police would ride around that bus every hour so that we couldn't go anywhere. So that next morning, we heard all this noise. He said, what the heck is that? It was a band coming out there to take us into the town. And the reason why they came out there, a tornado went through that town the day before. We didn't know that. The tornado went straight through the white section. Black section, they were hanging clothes out and the sun was shining. And that was in Oklahoma, but I can't remember the name of that town. And anyway, they told us that you can eat anywhere in this town you wanna. You can stay anywhere in this town that you wanna. And if you ever came back, it would be the same. And I never went back, but I can't remember the name of that town. But I've had some real ones. Oh man. A lot of times some of the things that you went through, people ask you nowadays, would you do it again? Yeah, I would do it again simply because it helped so many other guys, you know. But just for myself, I know I wouldn't, you know. We had a lot to go through.
Was Satchel Paige as good as they said he was?
Pardon?
Was Satchel Paige as good as they said he was?
Well, I'll tell you about Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige was a drawing card too, you know. And when I went to Kansas City, I was only 17 years old. Satchel Paige and Buck O'Neill took me in as if I was a child, and they showed me the ropes, everything. They just like a father, both of them. And I was playing with Satchel Paige All-Stars one year, and a lot of times when we played like in a certain town, they would fly Satchel Paige there. We'd have to ride the bus. So one day he was coming to this ballpark, and no Satchel Paige. 15 minutes before game, no Satchel Paige. And here he comes. Just got in town. Went down to the dressing room, put his uniform on. Went down to the bullpen and threw 3 pitches. He said, I'm ready. Now I'm gonna let you figure out whether he was good or not. He went out there and pitched 7 innings of no hit, no run ball against the Western League All-Stars. And at that time, Ernie Banks was called up, I think it was Des Moines, because I took Ernie Banks' place at shortstop at Kansas City. And in the 7th inning, he said, everybody down but the catcher. Now it's no hit, no run ball. Struck out the side and waved at the crowd. That's how good that man was. I mean, he was, I don't think there ever was a man. Well, we had a guy named Lefty Lamar that played for the Kansas City Monarchs at that same time. He was almost, I would almost bet he was as good as Satchel Paige. But other than him, I don't think there ever was a guy. Just like when Bill Beck called him up to Cleveland, they said he's 40 years old. He was 60 years old at least. And he was out there in the bullpen. And then, you know, they had a rocking chair out there for him and all that. He was always a drawing card. Quite a man though. He used to come and get me every morning. He lived in Kansas City, and he had a home. And I was staying at the Streets Hotel at that time. That's before I went into somebody's home. And he'd come and get me every morning, take me to breakfast. Then after breakfast, we would go by the billiard hall because he loved to shoot pool, and he taught me how to shoot pool. He was quite a guy. Buck O'Neill was just a father, just like him. I mean, those 2 guys I never would forget. In fact, I went to Buck O'Neill's celebration, they called it. Well, it was his funeral in Kansas City. And the church was so small that they brought the body to the museum and set it there in the museum. 3,000 people passed that casket simply because they wanted to see Buck O'Neill, you know, before they buried him. He was quite a man.
How many years did you play at Kansas City?
46, 47, and 48.
Was that, I guess, was that Kansas City's heyday, or did they have, was that the standard? Was that the good team?
Oh, that was one of the best teams in there. See, there was the American Giants, there was Pittsburgh, there was all kind of teams in that league. They even had teams as far as New York that was in that league. But it was a different division, see. And but Kansas City and Chicago American Giants were two of the best teams. And then there was the Indianapolis Clowns. Oh, it was a Pittsburgh. I can't think of those names. There's a lot of good ball players. I can remember when I was there when Branch Rickey came and got Jackie Robinson. See, he didn't come after Jackie Robinson. There were ball players that would make Jackie Robinson look sick. You had a guy named Willard Brown, second baseman. And boy, man, that guy could hit. Home runs. He was everything. He could do everything. And that's who I thought Branch Rickey would take. But the reason why he took Jackie Robinson had been to college. He'd been in the Army, and he had a heck of a personality. And he picked Jackie, and he picked the right guy. I don't know if the other guy is like Willard Brown. I don't know if he could have took what Jackie took. To me, that killed Jackie Robinson too. Jackie passed away in his 50s, and the pressure that was on him was so great that and then Jackie's son was a dope addict. And seeing all that together, I think created a lot of problems for Jackie.
I told you in the car coming over about Elizabeth Eckford, and she told me one of the things she told me was the reason they selected these 9 to integrate Little Rock Central was they were looking for people who could take the abuse without retaliating. Was that the same thing?
That's the same way it was with Jackie going into the major leagues. I can remember you saw that movie. You remember that, I don't know the manager's name, but anyway, it was the manager of one of the white teams in the major leagues, was calling Jackie all these names, and Jackie couldn't do nothing. And he went into the dugout, and he took his bat and just busted it on the ground, back up in there. And I think it was Branch Rickey came down and said, "You did it the right way." Because he wanted to say something or do something out there on the field, but he done it the right way by coming into the dugout, walking up the ramp, inside where nobody could see him, and just took his bat and broke it. But see, that takes a lot out of you. It really hurts. Some of the things that I went through that I can remember one time when I was only about 25, 30 miles from my hometown. And we were playing an all-white team. And I, again, was everywhere I went, I was the first black. And my wife, my son, and my wife's mother and father was at the ballpark. And was probably the only black in there. And this guy understands every time I get up to go to bat, he'd call me everything but the child of God. And I didn't say anything. So in the 7th inning, we were behind 2-1, and we had 2 men on. And I was going to bat. And this guy jumped up, and he was calling me everything but Phil McCrary. So anyway, I called timeout, and I asked, could I go back? I asked him, could I have time? He said, yeah. And I just took my bat. I couldn't get to the guy. The fence was 20 feet high, And I just drove my bat back there, and I asked him, I said, sir, would you please refrain from calling me all these names so I can concentrate? I said, I have a chance to help my ball club. And when I said that, the whole stand started booing this guy and booed him right out of the ballpark. And I went back up there and hit one off the top of the scoreboard. And we won the ball game, 3-2. That was right in my hometown. That was just about 20 miles from my hometown. Milton, Wisconsin. See, there's a lot of things that happened to me or happened while I was playing ball that people didn't expect. They didn't think it happened until they hear me talk about it. And a lot of things I still don't talk about. Yeah.
Did you feel like did you feel like a role model for other blacks at that time?
No, I didn't at that time, but after I got out of it and I saw what progress the black ball players were making, yeah, I feel that way. Because people ask me now, would you do that again? I said, oh yeah, because I helped somebody. Because a lot of ball players got a long ways from by what happened to me.
What was Ernie Banks like?
Oh, you couldn't beat him. You couldn't beat him. Man, he was just like everybody was Ernie Banks' brother. I mean, he was just one of those happy-go-lucky men. I can remember I was speaking somewhere and I knew that was going to come up. It was right after he passed. And I asked, the people, I said, if there's any questions you want to ask, I'll take them right now. I said, and if I can answer them, I will. Second question asked me, and I knew it was going to happen. Did you ever play with Ernie Banks? And when they said that, I broke down. And the lady that wrote the book, she was there, so she came up and took over. Because Ernie was, I don't know, he was better than a brother to everybody. That man everything had to be perfect. It was perfect for Ernie. And that saying he had, let's play two, he meant it too. He meant every bit of it, yeah. He was quite a guy.
Did he take a lot of abuse, or did he not?
Oh, yeah, he took it, but see, it eased up because Jackie had already been there. See, Jackie, that eased a lot of the balls. There was a lot of ball players after Jackie went into the major leagues, went up to teams, but they quit them and went to other countries simply because they couldn't take it, even after Jackie had got there. Oh, yeah.
How was the money back then
Oh, we made a whole lot of money. In 1946, 47, 48, most I made was $850 a month, which at that time was good money. But nothing compared. You got guys nowadays hitting 150, 250, making millions of dollars. Well, see, my lifetime batting average was 341. So you see, I could have made more if I were, say, I was the same type of ball player now that I was then. Man, there's no money. I don't know what I would be making. Yeah.
Did you find it? Did you have fun doing it? As much fun as Ernie Banks did?
Oh yeah, you had fun because you knew what people expected. I mean, and what you could do and what you couldn't do. So what you couldn't do, you just throw that aside. You didn't need that. I even had a guy in New York when I was there a couple weeks ago for an interview where he had 4 ball players from the Negro League. And he told me, he says, Bill, he said, I called you and I called other ball players, but you're the only ball player that seemed to not have any grudge or you didn't feel bad about the time that you played baseball. I said, well, that was then, and that's what, you expected that. Nowadays, you don't. I says, I have no regrets. I says, sure, I didn't like it. I said, but as far as holding something against it now, it doesn't make sense. That's gone. And he said, yeah, he said, because you're the only reason why I kept going. He says, and I found four ball players, and he had us all over there, in Rochester. And that was something. That was the best honoring that I think they could give me, or the Negro League, that I've ever been to. This guy picked my son and I up at the airport, and well, see, I don't travel by myself, at my age, 85, And he took us to the hotel, and he reached in his pocket, come out and give me an envelope. I says, what's this for? He says, oh, this is your spending money. We don't want you guys to spend nothing. He gave every one of us $200. And then he wouldn't let us spend it. And the reason why, he says, he had asked for donations. Well, you saw at my house that plot. Well, they were all over that town, in hotels and everywhere. And then they had small ones where you could pick it up and take it with you, And they had our pictures on all of them, the small ones and the big ones, And he called me about a week before I went to New York, and he says, I'm going to have to move this thing. Says, it's getting to be too many people. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, we figured maybe 50 or 60 people. It's up in the hundreds now. Says 200 people at least going to be there. So he moved it, and sure enough, when we got there and we got in this building, it was 250 people already there. And he says, that isn't all of them. I says, there was a bus with 100, there was buses with 100 people on them with kids that got lost, couldn't find the place. He said we'd had 300 to 400 people. And it was beautiful. I'll tell you like this, there was 4 of us there, and the 3 other ball players went home on Saturday. He had my son's ticket and my ticket for Sunday. And I wondered, why that? He says, because we wanted you and your son to be with my family all day Saturday, and you guys could leave Sunday. He says, because you never will know how encouraging you were talking about and when I talked to you. Went out to his place. He lived in a log cabin home. Beautiful. Oh, was it beautiful. I didn't think you could make a house look that beautiful, And he went in his trophy room, and in his trophy room he had nothing but deer heads, 4 deer heads on the wall. He had killed a black squirrel. First time he ever seen one. He had that mounted and had it on the wall, and the rest of that room was baseball. That man had everything you could think about in baseball. So I was sitting there talking to him, and he said, I got a book in there called Satchel. It's about that thick, about 1.5 inches thick, he said. He said, you're in that book. I said, oh, come on. Like that, because I never saw the book. He went and got that book and gave it, and he says, now look at this. Went down the index, he says, Bill McCrary, page 156. He turned to it and started reading me what it said. He said, after he read it to me, he says, you can have the book. He says, I've read it already, because I know you're going to go out there looking for one. And I got the book. He gave me the book, and I brought it home.
Yeah, I saw it on your table.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell young kids today that want to be professional athletes?
Get that education first. Because I didn't do that. You see, I was only 17 years old, and I graduated from high school. But I could have went to any college in the United States. But I didn't do it. I saw my dream playing baseball, and I went directly to that baseball. I would tell kids today, get their education first, then go and do whatever you want to do. That's what I tell them.
What about these kids that are throwing their arms out at young ages? What's causing that? You got any thoughts about that?
Well, see, yes, I have a lot of thoughts about that. That isn't the kids' fault. That's the managers and the coaches' fault. They push those kids too far. It isn't that the kid don't want to do it, but the coaches and the managers should have some kind of something. They should know something about baseball, or where otherwise they shouldn't be where they are, because they're taking these kids and using them to the extent that they shouldn't. They should stop and have a stopping point. I hate to see that. See, but it isn't the kid's fault, because the kid's doing what he's taught. That's what I hate it. Yeah.
When should a kid start throwing a curveball?
Oh, that I can't. I don't know. I started throwing when I was, about 14 years old. See, I was a pitcher at one time. See, I pitched in the Yankee farm system and the Cub farm system.
But now you were an infielder most of the time?
Yeah. I played shortstop, short and third. And I did a little pitching for Fargo, North Dakota. That was in the Yankee farm system, and a little bit for the Janesville Cubs in the Cub farm system. But I wasn't, I was a good pitcher, but I knew pitching wasn't going to be my way of going into the major leagues.
How tough is that throw from deep short?
Well, see, that throw comes automatically, really. Because when you're there, you know you're there. And you just let it go. It isn't as bad as it looks. But it's a tough throw. It's a tough throw.
I've heard a lot of baseball people say that's probably as hard a throw as there is in baseball, is when you're out that deep short throw.
It's a tough throw, but you're geared for that, because you know that someday or at some time in that ball game that's going to happen. So you're just geared for it. That's all.
Did you spend? What's a good way? What did you spend more time on? The defensive side of baseball or the offensive side of baseball?
Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't have to spend much time on either one. I guess I was just a gifted athlete, because I could do them both very well. And I hit a lot of home runs. People don't realize that, little as I was, the most I ever, the weight was about 173. And I hit home runs just like a guy that was 210, 215. But hitting the ball is all in the motion, in your arms. Your weight doesn't have that much to do with it.
You bat both ways, or
no.
Just left-handed?
Left-handed. And I hit both of them, left and right. I didn't make me no difference which one was pitching. But see, like I tell you, I was just a gifted athlete. That's all it was. I was just one of those in life, once in a lifetime. Yep.
How many other gifted athletes did you come across? I mean, were most of the good ones just gifted athletes?
Yes. Well, there's a few that coaches and things pushed a little bit. But most of the athletes that were gifted, were good athletes, were gifted athletes. It didn't take that much to motivate them to keep going.
When did you know you had that gift?
When I was in American Legion Ball, I was about 16, maybe 16, 17. Well, I know I was at 17, but I think I was about 16 years old. I could do anything. I could hit, I could run, I could field, I could do it. I said, I don't think there's anybody out there better than I am. And I really didn't. I always thought I was the best ball player on every team that I went to. And the thing about my going to different teams, I was always the first black. When I went to Fargo, North Dakota, there was 2 black people in Fargo, North Dakota. An old man about 90 years old and me. And that was another story. All the ball players, when I went to Fargo, North Dakota, stayed in homes. The home team boys, except me. I had to stay in a hotel. Nobody wanted me in their home. Yeah. And then I had a friend, one of the ball players named Tracy. I can't think of that guy's last name. Every day he would come by that hotel and pick me up. We'd go for a ride, we'd go eat, and all the ball players treated me nice. Now, don't get me wrong. But he was an exceptional one. We'd go play billiards at the billiard hall and stuff like that. Because the guy owned the hotel, he owned the billiards hall and stuff. And his name was Tracy. I couldn't think of his last name, but when my son was born, I named him Tracy. After this one guy.
What was your life after baseball?
Well, I went to, I was at, Elco Aluminum. I was a foreman there for I think there was about 12 years. Then I went to General Motors. I was a foreman there. And after I, did this stint of foreman, I went into my own business. Because a friend of mine, which is still a friend of mine right today, named Jake Fisher. In fact, Jake Fisher pays all my bills. He handles all my money, little money that I got. Well, he handles it. He pays my bills, everything. I don't do anything but write my checks for what I want. He pays, my light and gas and all that. But he uses my money. He's not using his. And he lived in Florida. And, he lived in Glendale Heights first. That's where I lived. I met him in Maywood. He was working for Jules. And I used to go to the Jules and see him there. Then he went and left there. And he got a fast food place like a White Hen. And then he got another White Hen. So one day I was up there and I was living in Glendale Heights and he had one in Glendale Heights. And I'd go down to his store and I'd have coffee every morning, because it wasn't about 2 blocks from my home. And we were in there one day and this guy, we started talking and going on. A couple guys would be in there and we started playing cards, poker. And come to find out, Jake didn't know I played baseball because I never did mention it. And he asked me, we were talking one day with another guy and Dick Drott, pitched for the Chicago Cubs, was there. He was one of the guys. And he started talking about baseball. And so Jake asked me, he said, did you ever play any baseball? I said, oh yeah, I used to play a little bit. He says, where'd you play? I said, I played with the Kansas City Monarchs in Kansas City. He says, what? He says, I used to play in the Cub farm system and the Yankee farm system. He says, how come you haven't told me that? I said, because what good would it do? What telling you ain't going to do me any good? And that's how he found out about me playing baseball. And he had me down to Florida, St. Petersburg, I think it is. And he had me, one day he had me come down, and one time he had me come down, and he says, oh yeah, bring your Kansas City baseball cap. Says the guy down there wants to see it. So I said, okay. So I put in my suitcase and I went down there, and he said, we're going to the ballpark today. He said, just put it on, says, because that guy's going to be there. I said, okay. So we went to the ballpark, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I see all these people coming up toward, the area where we were. And I said, well, what the heck are they going to do? And they says, we're looking for Mr. McCrary. I said, what? For what? I said, I ain't doing anything. They said, oh, you're going to throw the first ball out. And I didn't know it, see. He had all this set up. And so I went down with them and went out. And they had me all up on the marquee and everything. They had the Kansas City Monarchs. Oh, it was all really, really nice. And I threw the first ball out. Now he's moved from there. He's in Virginia now. And he's bought, I don't know how many acres of land. And he's rebuilding the house that was there. And he says he's gonna build me a house so that when I get ready to leave here, he wants me to come out there with him. And that's, he's better than my own son, in a way of speaking, I mean, he's never better than your own. And I have a daughter. My daughter lives in California. She wants me to come out there. My son lives in Illinois, and he wants me to come up there, but I'm not going to either one of them. As long as I can stay here in the village by myself, and take care of myself and keep my house clean. And then I have a lady come in every month, and every house needs a lady's touch, you know that. And take care of the house. But now when I get where I can't, I'll probably go where Jake is.
He said he's in Virginia?
Yeah. No, he got land out there. You see what happened to Jake. See, now this is not part of me. This is a man liked Jake so well that he told Jake, he says, if I die before my wife, I want you to take care of her until she dies. Then everything that I have will come to you. But as long as my wife lives, it's you and her. You can use it for anything you want. Well, she passed about 8 months ago, maybe a year. I doubt it's been a year yet. So everything that was left over is still Jake's. Jake's a millionaire. This guy had so much money it was a shame. And if he moved from, say, Beloit, Wisconsin to Janesville, or if he moved anywhere, he took her right with him, and he made sure that everything was just like she needed it. She was 90, I don't want to lie, I think she was 94 when she passed. But she had everything she wanted. I know at 90 she was still playing the piano, because I was down there one time to see him, and he told her, says, why don't you take Bill in there and play him a piece on the piano? She took me in there, she asked me to come on in, and she played that piano just like he was 15 years old. But that's the way Jake did things, with her. He never did make anything hard for her. Everything was easy. And that's why he turned out to be such a, good man.
Do you enjoy watching baseball today?
Sure. But it makes me mad when I look at a guy hitting 250, getting all that money. I look at it, but it makes me mad.
I've always wondered, how hard, where's the incentive if you're making all this money to really play hard or do anything? I mean,
because you love the game. See, that's where it's at. They play just as hard as I did when I was only making $850 a month. And if I wasn't making anything, I'd play hard because you love the game. And, there's some goof-offs. You're going to always have that. It's there for what they can get out of it, You don't have one of my baseball cards.
No.
I'll show you one.
You noticed he said, I'll show you one.
Huh?
I said, I noticed you said, I'll show you one.
I can't hear.
She said that you said you'd show me one.
Oh. Yeah, I think I got one there.
Is that what team do you follow a particular team now? Or?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, the Dodgers.
You a Dodger man?
I'll always be a Dodger man. It's already signed.
You got it, yep.
Simply because that's who brought Jackie Robinson up, see. And I'll always be a Dodger fan.
You didn't get mad at him when he moved to Los Angeles?
No. They're still the Dodgers. Yep.
He said he just showed that to you.
He gave it to you, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Bill, is there anything else that you want to tell the kids of the high school kids today? Any parting words of inspiration?
The only parting thing that I can tell any kid, and that's the first thing I start out with when I'm talking to kids, get that education. You see, I feel bad because I knew I was in good shape. I could go anywhere. And I didn't. Oh, I'll get it later. Baloney. Don't listen to that junk. Get it now. Because that coming back to it, you're not going back. I didn't go back. You see? And there's a lot of ball players right out there today that could have had a better education than they got now. Sure, I got a good high school education, and people that I are around, I get educated from them, but it's not like going to school.
What'd you do in the off season?
Let's see, what did I do? Off season, most of the time I had a job somewhere. Yeah, that's most of the time.
Did the baseball teams kind of arrange jobs for you, or did you have to go out and find them your own?
You got your own job. I don't remember any of them. No, Kansas City didn't. Janesville didn't. Fargo North did. No, but I made more money after I got out of baseball, what I would say pro ball, than I did when I was in pro ball. I had teams in Wisconsin would put me on their roster, and they would play their way up to the state tournament. And then when they see that they're going to make it to state, they call me up. Hey, Bill, can you come up? I got you on the roster. They paid me $250 a ball game. See, I remember there was one guy in Monroe. He says, I am going to be the first one to get you if we get close to, the state tournament. I said, okay. This guy owned a brewery in Monroe, Wisconsin. And he told me, he says, now, don't go anywhere until you hear from me. says, if we make it close, I'll be the first one. I'll pay you the most money. And he did. He did. He'd call me all the time. Every time they make it close, he'd call me and pay me good money. And I made more money playing like that than I did when I was playing pro ball.
Were the contracts back then your annual contracts? Is that how you did it, or?
Oh yeah. See, you got a contract, like when I was in Kansas City, that paid me. And, they paid the amount of money that they said they would pay.
But it was just a 1-year contract.
Oh yeah, you never got 4 or 5 years because you never know where you're going. You see, now I would play for you this year for $850 a month, and somebody would say, "Hey, Bill, I'll give you $950." Well, you going to the $950. See? So that's why they only gave you a 1-year contract. I think.
Well, this has been a pleasure.